Hello, thanks for joining us and welcome to Face Off, your weekly taste of French politics. As protesters take to the streets, the government takes cover. François Hollande postpones a planned reform of family law after tens of thousands of people demonstrated over the weekend, accusing him of family phobia. They say he wants to impose his views of the family on them. Catholics, conservatives, and radical groups first came together 8 months ago against gay marriage, and they've just shown their movement has staying power. Let's listen to Christine Boutin, the leader of the Christian Democratic Party.
That's enough. Stop treating us like idiots or extremists. We're not afraid because you're trying to change the structure of French society. You want to destroy our civilization, and we won't accept it.
So are we witnessing the birth of a French-style tea party? Well, I'll put that question to my guests today. Joining me on set to discuss this, Philip Turle, journalist at our partner radio station RFI, Radio France Internationale, and Jean-Marc Gonin, of course, senior writer with Le Figaro magazine. Thanks to both of you for being with us. Philip, first question goes to you. Many thought the protest movement died 8 months ago when they failed to stop gay marriage from coming into law. Now the movement has proved this weekend that it wasn't just a flash in the pan. So are they a factor for the foreseeable future during Hollande's term in office?
I think that everyone was quite surprised by the size of this protest. The police are saying 80,000 people turned up. The protesters are saying 500,000 people turned up. But whatever the figure, I think more people were on the streets of Paris last weekend than was expected. And this has come as a setback for the government, thinking, as you quite rightly said, that after mariage pour tous,
marriage for all,
the gay marriage bill went through, Parliament was accepted, voted, now it's become French law. They thought that this movement would die down. It's concentrated on two different issues. There are, of course, still those calling for the gay marriage law to be done away with, which, of course, won't happen now. But there are two other issues to do with.
There's already been 7,000 gay marriages over 2013 recorded in France. So that's done and dusted. There's no going back on that.
A huge amount of people getting same-sex couples getting married in France since the legislation came through last year, and that doesn't show any sign of abating. And the law will stay in force, hopefully forever, or until some political party which takes power decides to do away with it. But in France, usually those kind of laws, when it comes to abortion or similar texts to do with more personal issues, they usually will stay law forever afterwards. Going back to your question, yes, I think that the government didn't expect this protest movement to be so big. My feeling is that this is a more widespread movement which is focalised on the family, but it's a representation in France of a growing worry about the policies of the government, the unemployment rate, the image of France, the way people feel about their own position, their security, the pessimism in France, which is one of the most pessimistic countries in the world. If you look at the polls, it's all been crystallised in this movement, and many people are going to the streets just to protest against the government, whether or not they agree or not with the family policy the government's trying to push through, or has now said it's not going to push through.
Jean-Marc Gonin, Hollande handed the group of protesters a political victory yesterday, on Monday. They accused him of wanting to impose his ideas of family on French people, and the next day he suspends indefinitely his family bill, which was going to be discussed in the next 2 months or so. Isn't it 1-0, 1-0 for the protesters?
It is a big victory for the protesters, but I think Hollande and the government got punished by their own tactics. It kind of backfires. They were sure from the start of his mandate, they have been playing with these reforms because they also knew that it would divide the conservative camp. And again, with that family law, they thought, and indeed, the conservative camp was kind of divided. If you see the protest, the demonstration of last Sunday, not so many MPs of the Conservative Party turned up, so they were not quite sure.
They're slightly embarrassed by this movement, don't really know how to position themselves vis-a-vis the protesters.
But indeed, the fact that they attracted so many people proved that there is more to it than just ultra-conservative values behind. As Philippe said, there is a broad malaise. And also, I think those people wanted to show that they were tired, that the government would play with those issues to divide the conservative. I mean, you don't do tactics with serious questions like those, and I think the message was that there too, and really Hollande's tactics backfired.
And what's happened now is that in fact, it's had a boomerang effect against the government, because it's ended up splitting not only, or what Hollande wanted originally was to split the right, but in fact it's splitting his own party and the left, because you have on one side the far left and the Greens who are in favour of the family law going through.
Philip, let's listen to Noël Mamère, an environmentalist MP, and listen to what he had to say.
This shows just how fragile and vulnerable the government really is. They always get cold feet when it comes to carrying out real reform to change our society.
So the Greens make up, they're part of the coalition government, they are a member of it, and they're growing more and more frustrated with the policies that the president is introducing. First of all, there was a policy to introduce a green tax in this country, and that was beaten down by protesters in Britain who destroyed these tax barriers that would photograph vehicles going through. So the government has backpedaled on that, and now they were going to bring through this family law. The government appears to be backpedaling on that, and that was something else that the Greens wanted. But it's not only the Greens, there's also the left-wing opposition within the Socialist Party who were in favour, as opposed to the right-wing part of the Socialist Party who were against. So we now have a split within the Socialist Party. The Socialist Party is going to fall out, maybe with François Hollande over this as well. So it's a real mess for the president to have to try to clear all this up afterwards.
You have to bear in mind that what was at stake was that IVF possibility for female gay couples, and they have been hiding
the assisted procreation for lesbian couples.
And this is a serious issue, because at least 1/3 of the socialist MPs are pro this law, and be it the Ministry of Family, be it the President, Prime Minister, everybody was saying, no, this is not at stake. And everyone knew that it would be put forward by some groups of MPs during the debates. So there was a kind of a lie too, and I think this also has brought a lot of irritation among the enemies of this law, of this part of the
There are two divisive issues, in fact. There's the assisted procreation for lesbian couples, which you just mentioned, and there's also the issue of surrogate motherhood for gay men who want children. Both of those, at one point or another, have been, the Socialist Party toyed with the idea of putting them in a family law and making a law out of that to authorize them. And finally, let's listen to the Interior Minister as of Monday. He says, finally, that's dead.
The family bill won't include surrogacy nor medically assisted reproduction, and the government will oppose amendments introducing such clauses.
So the left has had to backpedal here again on something which was considered to be part of its fundamental core values that it had pushed since the beginning of Hollande's term. And this is another thing that street protests forced Hollande to go back on.
Well, the funny thing is that this weekend, neither of those two issues were in fact being discussed by Parliament. The Parliament had already said they weren't going to include them in this new family law, but the protesters were out on the street demonstrating against them anyway. So there was no way they were going to be passed. President Hollande's been a bit unclear about exactly where he stands with this, because at the start he was saying that he was in favour of medically assisted procreation, and since then he seems to have backpedaled on it substantially, seeing the amount of protests, especially over gay marriage in France, having pushed that through now, saying, OK, well, we'll give you gay marriage, but we'll take away the medically assisted procreation. I don't think that's going to do any favours for the relationship he has with the Minister for Families, who spent a whole year getting this new legislation ready, only to be told now that it's going to be left in a drawer somewhere and may never ever become law. So, as I said, it's a complicated issue, but there is an underlying growing frustration with the government that's been crystallised by this debate. But I think what most people in France are most obsessed with and most worried about is unemployment, spending power, the economic recovery of this country, which doesn't seem to be coming, and these promises from the government, yes, we're going to bring down unemployment, yes, the situation is going to get better, yes, we'll bring down taxes, And none of that seems to be happening.
And the government has admitted that it would have to focus on unemployment, on taxes, on economic issues, and put the rest on hold.
And everything that Hollande has tried to do up until now to get through has sort of not worked. And he's putting all his money between now and his re-election in 2017 on bringing down the unemployment rate in France. It's a big bet because so far he hasn't been able to do it. You need 1.5% growth. He hasn't got that growth. He's going to have to get it.
And Jean-Marc, finally, this idea that perhaps this is the creation of something new, more than just a street protest. We mentioned this idea of a French-style Tea Party. Do you think that's the case?
Yes, it is the case. Tea Party, not as it is in America, because it's a kind of very Jeffersonian libertarian movement that has not much to do with traditional values in France. But there is indeed a group that is gathering momentum and that takes to the street, that is taking to the street to show that the government is wrong in what it's doing. It's very confusing sometimes what's kind of slogans is there, but there is a force that is gathering in the streets and the left.
Which you think the momentum can go beyond just street protests, or can it last until the end of François Hollande's term and be a thorn in his side for the next 3 years?
He'll be at least under watch, because normally it's more the left that has the power to put people on the street to protest, but the right is demonstrating that now it has that capacity, and it's a big threat for the government.
All right, thank you very much. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks to our guests Jean-Marc Gonin and Philippe Turle for joining us on set. Thank you for watching. You can watch the show again on our website, france24.com.